What we have for you today is a very exciting webinar. Is an interactive webinar. We will start with a short introduction on what positive psychology is all about. We are both certified in applied positive psychology, so a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today are part of this field. So we'll talk about what it is not. Then we'll get to experience one of the most well-known and effective tools and techniques from the fields of positive psychology. So I will guide you through a short visualization. Then we'll get to do some sharing as part of the chat box. And then we'll get to journal. So if you haven't done this already, please grab a piece of paper and a pen. We'll need this a little later. And then at the end, we'll get to talk about some specific tools on how to cultivate real-time resilience. It's something that we all need right now.
So positive psychology, what is it? Well, it's basically the science of the study of human flourishing and the applied approach to optimal functioning, which I know is very wordy. So basically it's human thriving, the study of how humans thrive and the actions and the daily things that we can do to help us get there. So it's really exciting. Traditional psychology, by the way, positive psychology is about 20 years new. 1998, it was founded by Marty Seligman and some of his colleagues. Traditional psychology is the premise of, let's look at what's wrong and fix that. So in traditional psychology, we see, someone is experiencing depression, how do we get rid of it, right? So with positive psychology, we're kind of looking at the fuller spectrum of human thriving, and we're studying things like grit and resilience and mindfulness and the importance of deep, meaningful relationships, positive communication, the positive effects of meditation, yoga, nutrition. So as you can hear, it's just a broader spectrum of the human being versus just looking at like, what's wrong, let's fix it. So together, these psychologies have really made a huge impact in the field. And so kind of, that's a huge advancement in what we're saying.
Absolutely. I think this is such a great introduction, Amy. Thank you. And I just want to add something because I know a lot of people confuse positive psychology with positive thinking. And that's not what it is. So it's really, we're not trying to make people feel positive all the time, thinking positive all the time or feel good all the time, because that's really not possible. We're really trying to focus on developing those skills and tools for handling stressful situations better. And, those things that we inevitably focus, and also building more positive ones. So as Amy said, as opposed to traditional psychology that was focusing on what's wrong and how to fix what's wrong, positive psychology is focused on what's right and how to build more of that. So things like character strengths and certain gifts and traits that we have, and we want to build more of that. Over the past 20 years, a ton of research was done on testing certain tools and techniques that can really increase our life satisfaction, can really increase our well-being and our level of happiness. And this research has proven that a lot of people can certainly do this by really spending the time and cultivating those things that Amy mentioned, that grit, resilience, mindfulness, gratitude. And we often read about those things in self-help books or social media, right? We're bombarded with those Instagram messages. However, we very rarely get to put those into practice. It's one thing to read about the benefits of practicing mindfulness. It's a completely different thing to actually sit down and do it. So what we are all about and what we try to do is to create this tribe of people who are not only talking the talk, we're walking the walk. We are practicing those things together. And that's the other point that I want to make is one thing to practice this by yourself is a completely different thing to practice it with a group of people, what we're going to do today. It's kind of like, it's one thing to eat a meal by yourself. It's a completely different experience when you eat it with somebody else and other people who are like-minded and like-hearted. So because we are wired to focus on what's not working in our lives, we want to focus and celebrate the things that are working in our lives. So again, things are our strengths and certain traits, and we want to build more of that.
Yeah. So, Maria just touched upon how we're kind of wired to think more negatively. And there's a reason for this. It's called the negativity bias. And it's really important to understand that we are primarily, literally wired to scan for the negative and to have more fear-based thoughts. And that's because we are, our existence depended on it. We needed to know that there was a saber-toothed tiger in the bushes lurking so that we weren't their dinner. Okay. So that has evolved now to a lot of emotional stresses. So there's no tigers in the bushes really that are going to hurt us, but now we have a lot of emotional stresses. There's a lot more technology, our news is fear-based, and with everything that's going on with, coronavirus, we're feeling these emotional stresses. They're not physical dangers, but they're emotional dangers, which are just as harmful. We feel the same stressful response in our body as we do if there was a tiger coming after us. So that's an important thing to understand. And it's also important to understand that we have a choice, and it's also a muscle to build. So although the positivity muscle is a little bit, not as strong, that's something through daily practice that we can build to kind of counter that negativity bias. And, a lot of us spend time on our physical hygiene. We go to the gym and, we get our outfits and our hair done and, all this external stuff we do, but not many of us spend time on our emotional hygiene. And that's going to be really important for us to get to that thriving point that we're all looking for. So if we can take time out each day to really work on our emotional hygiene, again, you'll see a big reward with just a little bit of effort, for sure.
That's right. And this is such a good point that you made of, pointing out that it is a muscle, right? We have to, it's not going to come to us naturally. We have to make the conscious effort to do this. And listen, we don't do this every day. It's normal that, we're going to have days when we don't feel at our best, and that's totally okay. That's when we forgive ourselves, right? It's really when we have the capacity and the ability to really carve some time to practice certain things and to know that this practice is important, and that's what's going to help us long term. So Amy mentioned the negativity bias. So one of the ways to counter this negativity bias is to practice something called best self visualization. So this is an exercise that we're going to do together right now. We've done this many times before, and the idea behind it is to experience a moment in your life where you are at your best, when you felt at your best. And this means something different for everybody else. And once I lead you through the visualization, it's going to be a short meditation. Then I'm going to ask you to write down what you saw as part of it. And then we're going to spend 4 to 5 minutes journaling, just writing down our thoughts and what was part of that visualization. And then we'll get to do some sharing. So I'm going to use a chat room to just, or we're going to actually call up on a few people to share their experience, whoever is willing to participate and to really.
And I think an important thing to note is this, your best, thinking of a time you were at your best. It could be when you were 7, 10, high school. It doesn't have to be, in the past, couple weeks. So it's just a time in your life where you just felt like you were your authentic best self.
That's
really,
right.
Basically.
It's really when you felt at your best, when and what others would like. Once we start sharing, I would like to invite others to listen for certain strengths and passions in that person's story. Amy's actually going to start first. She's going to give us, her notes, and then so you can see, and you can hopefully participate and really point out some of those things that you hear that she really values. And then we'll get to hear from some of you. Now, again, as Amy said, use your own definition of recent. You know, it can be last week, it can be 5 years ago. It's really about focusing on a specific point in time and not just a period. So instead of focusing on last summer and you traveling with the family, focus on a specific moment from last summer that you were at your best.
All right, let's get started.
Okay, so I really would like to invite everyone to take a comfortable seat and feel free to close your eyes or just relax them, whatever feels most comfortable and natural for you. And I really would like to start with some deep breaths so that we can center and ground ourselves. So as you inhale, I would like to ask you to count to 4. Then you hold your breath to that count of 4. And you exhale to the count of 6, and we're gonna do this 3 times. Ready? In for 4, hold for 4, and exhale for 6. Let's do this 2 more times. Okay, so hopefully everyone feels a little more relaxed and grounded. Now I would like to invite you to bring your awareness to a specific time in your life when you felt at your best. You can imagine this is an image that's coming up, almost like watching a movie on the screen. Just picture yourself in this moment in time. Who are you with? Who are the people around you? What are you doing? How are you being? How are other people receiving you? How are you receiving yourself? What do you feel in your body? And if you don't see an image in your mind, that's fine. Just notice the thoughts that come up for you. Think of as many details about this moment in time as you can. What makes it so uniquely special? What was the best part of it for you? Are there certain strengths and passions that you notice in yourself? So either feel free to stay in this visualization for a few more seconds, savoring the remembrance of this experience, or feel free to come back into the room. Now we're going to spend the next 5 minutes just writing down what we experienced and what we saw during the visualization. So if you can all get that notebook or piece of paper and just write down what you saw. I'm gonna keep time. Okay, we'll have about 2 more minutes. And if anybody needs more time, please let us know in the chat room. Okay. Yeah. 2 more minutes. Okay. Does everybody need more time? I'm gonna. Okay. Okay, so I know, Amy, you have done this many times.
Yes, yes.
So what was this
yeah, so I love this. It's funny, every time I do this, a different time comes up. And when I first did this about 6 years ago, it was more like in childhood. And I feel like now that I've been practicing a lot of this, it becomes closer and closer because I feel like I am practicing my best self these days. So I actually just went back to a little dinner gathering I had with 2 other couples, my husband and I, on our patio. And I have a garden outside, and I had spent the day gardening, and I had, you'll see my dog probably running around out here down behind us. So it was just like one of those nights where I was decorating the table with, some cuttings from the garden and making a lovely meal, great conversation and music in the background, of course, laughter. And I just was kind of reliving that night, because it was just, I feel like I'm at my best when I'm, being creative and cooking and being with friends. So that's like instantly what I thought of.
And this is so, I just heard so many things in this story. Some of those things that you really deeply value, like quality time with your friends and your family. I heard creativity. You love to be creative with your space. And I think it's even the anticipation is sometimes more gratifying than the actual experience. Just being engaged with those things. love and joy from beauty, you get so much out of it. And I know you've been consciously, doing those things, in your life. And I think this is why we do this exercise, because it just brings this remembrance of what's important for us at the end of the day. So how was that for you?
It's great. I mean, again, it's, I think what this exercise does is it connects to our authentic self and who we really are and really what's important. And, it's not necessarily like fancy things or external things. It's really what brings you joy individually. And then when you get to express that and live that, you feel the emotion of joy. So I think for me, it just really solidifies the fact that being our authentic self and remembering when we are really does bring, positive emotion.
Yeah. So does anybody else would like to share what they saw during the visualization? And, what I would like to do is, when you hear that person's story, if everybody else can just use the chat room to shout out some of those qualities and strengths and values that you hear. It's a really powerful way to uplift that person and to see them for who they are.
Yeah, if anybody wants to share, just make sure you unmute if someone wants to.
Yes, and just
raise your hand. If you don't want to share, that's fine, but it is kind of fun to just kind of hear, people's experiences of like their best self. Anyone?
I like to share.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thanks, Justin.
The best time of my life was one of the worst times of my life. When I got schizophrenia, when I was working on Motley Vineyard. I saw it with the meditation, I saw the ice cream sandwich. And I thought I was going to go working hard and trying to move up, but I didn't want to work dishes anymore, and I wanted to work at one place where I worked all over, so I don't know.
How was that exercise for you?
I like the exercise. It's like just the muscles through it, like remind me about the past. But I got over it, so I don't know.
You said ice cream. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, ice cream sandwich.
You love ice cream sandwiches. How often do you get to treat yourself?
Once in a while.
So do more of that.
Cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
So, feel free, again, like I'm going to try to open the chat room and see if I can see, there you go. See if anybody would like to share. Does anybody else want to share their story? And again, the idea here is to really understand the benefit, of doing this. And you can do this with your family. If you don't feel comfortable sharing in this space, do this around the dinner table or with some of your friends. Just ask everybody to share, a moment in their life when they were at their best. You get to know them better this way, and they'll get to know themselves. It's like such an uplifting experience for everybody, not just for the person sharing, but for the person receiving.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what should we do? Is someone, sorry, I might.
Oh, okay. So Mark,
I might share if we weren't being recorded.
So Ellen, is there any way we can pause the recording? So Mark just said that, he might be willing to share, but he doesn't feel comfortable being recorded, which.
Oh, sure. I'll pause it right now.
We get to be, we kind of allow ourselves to experience something that we don't allow ourselves to experience in our everyday life. So what is it something that you can do? So I'm just curious, Mark, what is it something that you can do? Because you're now in the spotlight, to bring some of those things that I heard, like love of learning and, connection and adventure, even when you're here, where you're not on a vacation. Is there something you can think of that you can do more
of? Well, I'm sorry. It looks like it's being recorded again. I just don't feel comfortable.
That out. And these are things that we don't always notice or appreciate about ourselves. So when we come from a position of strength, we appear comfortable in our own skin, and we have more natural tools at our disposal. And actually, when we're with others and we're being ourselves and we exude those character strengths, we make others more comfortable. It is just one of those things that I really want you all to do more of. Okay, so is there anybody else that would like to share or has a question? Okay, well, we're gonna have more time at the end for questions. So what we are going to do now is we'll talk about real-time resilience, right?
Yeah, we have a few tips for real-time resilience. So Maria's gonna talk a little bit about resilience, and then we'll get into our three of our favorite tips to being a little bit more resilient.
Right, so we wanted to talk about real-time resilience because this is, again, it's one of those concepts from positive psychology that have really helped me personally, and I think we all, can learn how to cultivate more of as we're going through this, crazy time right now and stressful time. So what is resilience? Resilience is really the ability to recover quickly from adversity. It's when bad things happen, when stressful moments happen, how can we get ourselves out of it? And instead of reacting, how do we respond better? What are the things that we can do to cultivate that? Because again, it's not gonna happen overnight. Like these are skills that we have to consciously work on.
And, when we think of a challenge or something in our lives, it can be as big as something as a health crisis like cancer or divorce, but it can also be simple as being stuck in traffic and how we respond to that. So it really is, it can be, big things, of course, but most of it is our daily experiences and events when things we plan going a certain way don't go a certain way. How do we bounce back from that? And so, if you're sitting in traffic and you're late, that could be a real trigger to send you down a negativity lane. But, if we can kind of train ourselves to think, okay, let's use this time for valuable time. I'm going to do some deep breathing. You know what? I'm going to phone a friend I haven't talked to in a while. So it's really making that shift for the better instead of having it consume you, which I know a lot of times, road rage can be a real thing and people just get really frustrated, but it's kind of acknowledging that and saying, oh, I'm not going to go there. So I think it's important to note that, it's little things and also big challenges that we experience in our lives.
Such a good point. It's really, that's exactly it. It's really the little things that happen in our life that can add up over time to, feeling of stress and anxiety. And I always say it's not really the negative, we're going to experience negative feelings, negative emotions. They're part of our life. They're inevitable. It's what we do with them when they happen that really matters.
It's really how we interpret them, right? So we're going to all have these events in the day and experiences, and how you interpret them is really going to be how you experience them. So if you're interpreting something to be annoying or bad, you're going to feel annoyed, right? Versus if you see it as, it is what it is.
I choose to focus on something,
yes.
on something else.
So that's a key point. But so one of our first resilience tips is quiet time. And this is really important because this is a staggering statistic. The average American screen time, and that is your cell phone, iPad, computer, TV, video games, all your screens. The average American screen time today is 8.5 hours a day. I'm going to repeat that because it's huge. Okay, so 8.5 hours a day we spend looking at our screens. Okay,
especially now.
Yeah, especially now. And so knowing this, our time is very valuable, and we, many of us complain that we don't have time, but I think it's more of a priority thing. So we really need to make quiet time a priority because, with all of this information that we're consuming, info overload, a lot of us are multitasking. We are, in school, and we have kids, we're tending to a job, so we have a lot on our plate. Carving out quiet time is huge. So one of our tribe challenges that we often give people is if you could take a half hour before you go to bed and a half hour first thing in the morning, just start there, okay? It's like a baby step. And make that a no phone zone, okay? So technology-free time where you can at night before you go to bed, do some reflection, maybe some gratitude of things that went well that day, a little journaling if you're into that. For me, I like to do some reading. I have a lot of wellness material, mental health material that I like to read. I have a big stack next to my bed. I'll read a couple chapters and then ease into, sleep time. And then first thing in the morning is also a great opportunity to, do some deep breathing, a little meditation and really set your intentions for the day. So that way you're not kind of just jumping and reacting to your day with hitting the buzzer and running out the door. You're kind of, setting the tone for the day and you're being a little bit more conscious about it. So let's everybody, if we can try to do that over the next couple weeks is again, half hour before you go to bed, half hour first thing in the morning.
Just for the next week, right? Like just start with that, as Amy said, baby steps.
Yeah, because we really do need to recharge. Like I said, we have so much going on in our lives and our energy levels really get depleted. So that's a good way for us to recharge. And if you can take also other mini micro breaks throughout the day, when you're in traffic, take a lunch break, go for a walk. All of these little micro breaks really do add up to, replenishing us and making us feel a lot better during the day.
And that's the thing. People always say, I don't have time for this, right? Well, you don't want to make time for this.
Or we've heard, if someone says, we don't have time to meditate, I don't have 10 minutes to meditate, we say, well, then you need 20. Because it's, we do have the time. And with 8.5 hours screen time, we can carve time out of that for sure.
Right. And again, it's a muscle, right? It's like I had one of my clients say, well, I had a panic attack and I tried that meditation thing. It didn't work. Well, how many times have you meditated prior to the panic attack? Well, none. Well, have you ever tried running a marathon without ever running in your life? Right. So it's something that we have to consciously do, which it doesn't, it's not always comfortable. It's not always fitting, because we are just.
And here's the thing. Well, and here's the thing. We weren't taught this, right? We didn't learn this in school. So a lot of this is foreign and we're not used to it. Okay. So we have a lot of belief systems, like no pain, no gain, and, work harder and, people are rewarded by multitasking. And so it really is not natural for us to want to do these things because of our belief systems and the fact that we just weren't taught these tools. So from now forward, this is with this new information, we tell our clients that you can build upon it from now. It's like, you can always get in shape at the gym, even if you're completely out of shape. It's the same thing with your mind. It's not like you wasted all these years and you can't get there. You can begin again, like start today. So
now is always a good time.
Yeah. So that's really encouraging to know that you're in the driver's seat and you have the choice and we're in control. So I think that's really liberating for people to know that they're not a victim of their emotions or their, their mental health, that they really are in the driver's seat. So exciting stuff.
Absolutely. I hope you really, give yourself that opportunity to build some of this. Now, this leads us to the second tip, which is self-care, right? Self-care, again, very trendy topic. We hear about it a lot. You walk into Barnes and Noble and there are 5,000 books on self-care. And what we would like to share with you, again, it's just something, it's not so much about theory here, it's about practice. What can I do? Because a lot of people say, I hear it, what can I do? Well, here's something about self-care. Sometimes it's not about doing something that's going to bring you that immediate gratification, right? Like eating a burger. It's about the things that you can do now that will lead to this long-term life satisfaction, long-term happiness. So, for me, I know that I can be craving a burger and I want to have it. And I'm not saying that you should never have it, but I know that after that, I'm not going to feel good. I just know it. So what I
And
consciously
for me, I
do-
actually feel good after a burnout. So it's all individual.
It's all relative. I say, you say it's all about perspective, right? So I actually make that when I walk into the supermarket, I literally fill my cart with produce. And because I know that, for me, I cannot be in the supermarket for more than 20 minutes anyway. So I just walk out with a whole bunch of produce, and that's what I get to eat for the week. So it's really making that conscious effort, knowing that I have to counter some of those habits that I have.
Yeah, and self-care too, for me, is setting boundaries. I often find myself being asked to be, part of different boards, or to volunteer my time to maybe things that aren't important to me. And I think, Maria often says, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And so I think by carving more me time, people can see that as being selfish, but it's actually really good for you. You can really build that for yourself. And so setting boundaries to where you're not just, having no time for yourself and you're giving your time to everyone else is also, not great. And, and you want to help and do things, but when it's too much, it's
everybody write this down. Okay. Amy, say this again. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
Yeah. So if it's something
put it on your fridge.
Yeah. So if it's something that you really don't want to do, but you just feel guilted into doing it, that's going to affect your overall mental.
All right.
health.
Another tribe challenge, right? Like, what are you going to do this week? Like, and now I know we're on Zoom and we can't see you. All right. There you go. Justin, what is it? What does it say? If it's not a hell yes, it's a no. Love it. Thank you, Justin.
So yeah, one of the things we say, and you can say this to yourself every day, what is one thing that I can do today to make it more enjoyable? Right? Just what's one thing I can do today to make it more enjoyable than it can already be?
She just told me this today.
So it's literally, I just, in the morning, I just think of, what's one thing. And for me, a lot of times it's just walking my dog in a park. I love being out in nature. So often it's that one thing happens to be, I'm always doing that one thing, but it could be,
for me, it's dancing.
Yeah. Dancing.
Literally, like I listened to ABBA the other day.
Yeah.
And I just danced by myself for 5 minutes.
Yes.
Love that.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever that one thing is, it's going to be different for everyone, but just again, being conscious about how to, increase, more optimism in your day.
Okay. Can you guys, like, now we're going to challenge you, right? Like, I would love for you to share in the chat room. We have some time. What is one thing you're going to do this week that will be just for you and that will make your day more enjoyable? And if you don't want to use the chat room, that's fine. We trust you. You're going to write this down on a piece of paper, just like Justin did. Okay, let me see. I can see the chat room. Let me just make sure.
Yeah, we're having
I can see this.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm working hard to do an in-home workout on my 30 minutes daily break.
Love it.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Now,
huge.
Now make this a yes. Okay. Yeah. This week, give yourself the promise today that you will just do it just for a week.
I'm going out on my patio in the morning with my cats.
Wonderful.
One of my favorite things. I
have a cat too.
Marie has a cat. I have a dog, but a lot of times I'll be, stretch mindfully and fully. Awesome.
Oh, love that it's in caps. Yes.
Stretching is
that
so
shows
good.
determination.
LOL, yes, I need to make it happen. Maybe I will add to my calendar like an appointment. You know what? That's great. Really,
Oh, Amy has a tip on the calendar thing.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do, excuse me, is I have a pink highlighter. I have like an old fashioned write down calendar because that just works for me. And so I, in pink highlighter, highlight all the fun things that are coming up that month. And it might be as simple as like a lunch with somebody, or, a walk with my dog at a new park I haven't been to, or dinner with friends, or, I'm going to a floral arranging workshop, whatever it is. and I highlight the whole block in bright pink. And it's funny because I can open up my whole month and be like, oh, I don't have enough pink. So it actually is a visual for me to say, Amy, you're not planning enough fun things in your month. So yeah, the pink highlighter exercise we often share with our clients, and they love it.
Love it.
And it doesn't have to be pink.
So
it can
visual.
be green, purple, whatever highlighter color you like. But it kind of just, again, who was it that mentioned putting it in, Alyssa said, making it like an appointment. And it's true.
Same idea.
Until it is a muscle memory, we have to do these things like make it an appointment, or maybe have a spouse or a friend that you can be accountable with to say, hey, did you go on that walk today? Or are you stretching? Or, you know, are you doing your meditation? So having your tribe of people that can kind of be your support system and a reminder, and, you know, and also a companion during this trial time of incorporating a lot of these tools, so you can share them with each other and see how everybody's doing. Because that's really important. I share with Maria, and actually a lot of my friends, we will openly talk about this. I always say I will do it, but find myself working straight through. I need to take a break and do, okay, right.
Yep, that's it. So listen, Alyssa, gold star for this comment, okay? This is exactly what this is about. This is about you making the commitment to yourself. And just the way you showed up today for this workshop, this is something you're doing for yourself.
Okay, and Justin just hit a nerve with me, because trying to work on cleaning the apartment for 30 minutes each day and organizing. Okay, so
yes,
one of my character strengths is not organization. So
less
I find that when I am organized and my house is neat and organized, I feel so much better. So this is something that I work on, you know, and I actually will put into my to-dos exactly that. I'll say, okay, do a load of laundry, and then, you know, walk the dog, and then I'll come home and we'll be like, you know, clean up the bedroom or whatever it is, because, you know, having a cluttered house, you know, can make your mind feel cluttered. So Justin, that
oh my gosh,
resonated with
Justin,
me.
totally like this. Justin just got exactly what we were talking about, the self-care. It's not so much about taking a vacation, right, from our everyday life, but really cultivating a life that we don't want to escape from. This is it. And this is sometimes takes doing things like doing your budget or cleaning your house that long-term will make us feel so good. Awesome.
Yeah, and you know what, I also say, you know, these are creating new habits, you know, and for me, I had a habit for years of just kind of being messy, and, you know, and until I made a conscious effort to clean up my space and be more mindful about that, huge difference, huge difference. I make my daughter beautiful lunches, and not for myself, already making it, not, well, why not make the lunch for me too? I work from home and I can make lunchtime. And okay, so this is also a really huge point, because when I was a new mom, I remember getting together with several moms and talking about how I like to take lunch on my patio with my dog, especially on a nice day. And the response I got from these new moms was really confused. Like, well, don't you have a lot of things to do? Like, I don't have time to take lunch. Like, almost like that martyrdom syndrome of,
we all have it. I have it.
Like that's silly for you to be taking time for yourself when you have all these things to do.
Yeah.
And so I applaud you for recognizing that, because often we do for so many other people and we're not doing for ourselves.
Well, Alyssa, we're going to have hopefully a whole other webinar on self-care. And, you know, I want you to understand, we're conditioned this way. Women, we're conditioned to be selfless, right? So this is it. This is, you know, if you do everything for everybody, this is not your fault. That's the point I'm trying to make. So we have to make that effort to be a little more selfish, okay? And I absolutely mean this. If you tell me at the end of next week that you have made lunch for yourself every single day, one thing, again, that will make your day even more enjoyable, you are a champion.
One thing I actually started to do, I use my nice china. Like, I actually have like nice china plates. I will make my lunch on like a nice dish with like, not, you know, paper plate, you know, make it an experience, like celebrate yourself. Like, so, you know, I think these are things, you know, they sound small, but all these little things added up, I think just, you know, feed our soul. So I think, again, it's not a muscle memory. It's not, you know, a habit that we've had, but it's a new habit that you can make. And what is
cultivate.
it? What is it, like 30 days to create a new habit?
21.
21.
Okay, well, we can start with a week, but if you can stretch it to 21, awesome. And again, sometimes you can skip a day. That's fine. Don't beat yourself up. Just get up and start again. Begin again.
Yeah, begin
Yes.
again.
Okay.
And our final tip is really bringing the idea of connection to the forefront and to understanding how important it is now more than ever, because a lot of us are isolated, to connect. Okay. And right now, this is a perfect example of connecting with a group of like-minded people and sharing, right? And, you know, when you are connecting with people, you're feeling supported and you're feeling that you're seen and you're feeling that someone cares about you. So, you know, it's why we named our company Tribe, because we that's how important we feel, that connection and having that support is
It's everything.
to your wellness.
It's everything. It's what takes us to these challenging and hard times. Believe it or not, I've had such a tough year last year. You know, so we're very close. And I always tell her, what do I always tell you? If I didn't have my tribe.
Oh, she doesn't even know how she would have, how you would have survived this year.
Completely. And we all have those challenges, especially now. So find your tribe. It's there. We're hopefully going to be part of it. And
I actually, a sidebar, I actually reached out to a college friend I hadn't talked to just because she lives in California. And I just had this feeling I wanted to talk to her. I reached out to her and it was like time never passed. So, you know, if it's connecting with an old friend or Zooming with a neighbor or having a conversation with a neighbor or with a good friend, you know, we really need to have connection in our life. So we need to make that a priority as well.
Okay, so I know we don't have much time, so I really want to ask you, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, and you know what? Yeah, and one of the things that we always love feedback, because again, we're trying different things and sharing different information all the time. If there's one takeaway that really resonated with you today, if you could share that, that would be great, because like I said, we are always experimenting with new information, and we're not sure really what hits a nerve or resonates. So if you could share maybe one thing that you got from this today, or two or five, we would really appreciate that. And hopefully, you know, you'll see more of us on NAMI's platform, and we'll be happy to help with any webinars that we can.
Hopefully, you know, and hopefully we get to practice some of those other, you know, some of those other things that, you know, that are part of positive psychology that we can experience together.
Is cognitive behavioral therapy part of positive psychology?
So it's not therapy. The positive psychology includes cognitive behavior. So yes, to answer your question, yes, it is part of it. It is more part of a traditional psychology than positive psychology. Positive psychology builds up on that. So there is more of an extension to it that's part of the positive psychology than the actual cognitive behavioral therapy. It is definitely recognized though.
Yeah, Dana was saying that she likes the fun calendar events, adding a color code to that. It's awesome. I tell you, it's funny because everybody will look at my calendar like, what is going on? I'm like, that's my fun. That's my fun for the month right there.
And Justin said the mindfulness was great. Like I'm so glad you enjoyed it. You can certainly do more journaling around that.
Do you have any quick tips for resilience, like a quick reset thought or idea to bring you back in the track? Okay, so I will go. All right, so this is something that I do daily. And when a fear thought creeps into my mind, which happens often, by the way, we have about 50 to 70 thoughts per day on average. 50 to 70,000 thoughts per day. We have about 40 thoughts per minute. That's what I was getting at. So when I have a fear thought that comes in, my first thing that I do is I acknowledge that that's happening. And then I say, what do I want? Right? And immediately what that takes me to is maybe some goals that I'm looking towards, or you know, what it does is it shifts from something that could be scary or that's not comfortable to what I want. And usually if you talk to people about what they want, it's a lot of positive things, whether it's an experience or, for me, it's like a project at home that I'm working on the garden. I'll just think about that. It's like a little mental vacation of going somewhere else. So that's one of the quick things I do is I just acknowledge it and then just try to shift gears.
Okay, so that's really good. I have one, and it's a very good tool from positive psychology. It's called worst case, best case, and most likely. So you go super quick in your brain. Like, let's say you lose your keys, you can't find them. Your brain starts going like, okay, I'm going to be late for work. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to die. It's like, that's what our brain does. So literally you go, okay, really. And that's something, again, you have to practice. You can Google it. Worst case, best case, most likely. Literally, once you practice it, it goes super quick, and you go like, okay, really? What's the percentage chance that I'm going to get fired? Okay, well, I don't know, 5. So what is the, worst case? That's the worst case scenario. What's the best case scenario? I'm going to figure it out. So I'm going to find my keys. So, and then what's most likely? Then I'm going to be a few minutes late, but I'm going to explain what happened. So really, like, when you do that, like, it takes you out of the amygdala and the reactive brain that's like overpowering and puts you back into the prefrontal cortex. So that's why we can be part of lectures. We can learn meditation. We can do all these things. When you lose your keys and you're late for work, all of it gone out of the window. You're in reactive mode.
Something easier than that, because that might be hard to remember, is deep breathing. Okay.
Huge.
So a lot of times, if there's something that you need as a quick fix, deep breathing for about 2-3 minutes will really settle your nerves and help you think a little bit clearer. So I would say the deep breathing is probably the quickest and best way to.
Which connects with your point earlier. It's really pausing, catching yourself. First step, when you start getting, when you start experiencing adversity and you start reacting, just pause
and breathe.
Breaths. That's it.
Pause and breathe.
Good.
Well, I want to thank you ladies so much, Amy and Maria. I know there's a lot of probably things coming in the chat, but I know we're near one. Some people might need to jump off, but I just want to make the one point. I think that you guys have hit on some over and over again, that it is, so many of these tips are a practice. And I think in today's world of instant gratification, we're all looking for quick fixes. And it's like these tools and tips do work, and we just have to be patient with ourselves, I think, a little bit, and keep at it and keep practicing. Because as you said, 21 days to make a new habit. And I think we all can definitely gain from that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Have an awesome week, guys.
I so appreciate each one of you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.